I got to introduce the next speaker. This next speaker, next speaker, he's actually a guy who needs no introduction here, but I'm going to give him one anyway. Yeah. I'm going to introduce you to Brother Cornel West. Foremost public intellectuals in this country, but also a brother who combines very deep thought and work around ideas with coming out of the ivory tower into the streets and standing with the people. It is because of his honesty and what he brings together that I love him, and you all ought to love him too. Cornel West.
Oh, brother Carl Dix, he's my dear brother. Give it up again, brother Carl. Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful thing when you're on fire for justice, whether you're a revolutionary communist like my brother, whether you're a revolutionary Muslim like Malcolm X, a revolutionary Buddhist like Velvet, or a revolutionary Christian like myself. Revolutionaries come in a lot of different forms, but the important thing is the overlap that focus on the dignity of those slice stone called everyday people. When you fall in love with everyday people, you hate the fact that they're being treated unjustly. You loathe the fact they're being treated unfairly. And if you don't do something, the rocks are going to cry out. I want to introduce to y'all our dear sister, Pastor Doris Johnson. Stand. Let us see a Harry Tucker. Let us see a Harry Tucker right here, y'all. That's very important. Every time I step forward, I always begin on notice Sankofa. You have to look back and keep track of the best of those who came before you even talk about analyzing the present, making sense of the present in order to make a qualitatively different future. That in this particular moment in which the ice age is beginning to melt, folk been scared, intimidated, and afraid, or either bought off or co-opted. It's a new day now. And it's especially the younger generation that's broken the back of fear, broken the back of cowardice, broken the back of walking around with it. And Malcolm used to say, anytime those everyday people who've been walking around humped over, straightening their backs up, they're going somewhere, because folk can't ride your back unless it's bent. And once you straighten it out, and then join hands with other folk who are on fire for freedom, you could be talking about ecological catastrophe as a result very much of corporate greed. You could be talking about homophobia. I do applaud the marriage equality at work. Oh yeah, I applaud it. But it's still within a bourgeois liberal framework. We grab anything we can get, but anything that keeps track of the humanity. Gay brothers and lesbian sisters, the bisexual, the transgender folk. Then we invite them into the revolutionary movement and say, you know what? You're going to have to deal with some structures here that have something to do with capitalism. You're going to have to deal with some structures here that have something to do with vicious legacies of white supremacy and male supremacy. You're going to have to come to terms with imperialism and the empire and the drones dropping bombs on precious people, especially precious children in Yemen and Somalia and Libya and Afghanistan. You're going to have to come to terms with the politicians who are just extensions of oligarchs and bureaucrats. All of us get it together. No doubt about that. But at the same time, we're going to have to keep keep track of what the institutional and structural sources are that hold us back. And that's why it takes about every 30 or 40 years for everyday people beaten down, lied on, exploited at the marketplace, manipulated by corporate media, children having to go to decrepit schools where soul murder takes place every day, no access to arts programs, no access to sources of believing in themselves other than to parents, oftentimes the mothers who are overworked and underpaid. Yes. And the massive unemployment and the massive underemployment, and yet mainstream press says what? That's business as usual. And we say, no. No. We're going to keep the momentum going. And let us be very clear about this. Even though I'm old school and you can see it in the greenness of my beard. And I'm blessed to be alive. Any black man that makes it to 62 is still in his right mind. And he's 77. Yeah. And still swinging and gonna go down swinging. Yeah. But let's be very clear, it's the young folk of all colors but disproportionately chocolate who are at the center of this movement in the last year or so. It's Ferguson, it's Baltimore, it's Staten Island, it's New York. Yes, we all in it together, but it's been very much a new school leadership, and I like that. Learn from Ella Baker. The days of the messianic model of the head Negro in charge, that's over. Been trying to tell Brother Sharpton that for a while. Trying to tell all of the old black leadership that messianic model is over because you all are easily co-opted, easily brought in, easily incorporated. We want grassroots leadership. We want indigenous leadership coming out of the local context. And those of us who are at a national level, we just render our services. Whatever skills and insights and gifts we have, because each and every one of us ought to be specialists in being servants of the people. Yes. When Huey Newton talked about that, that wasn't no joke. To put the people at the center and ensure that their voices are heard. And then at the same time, let them know that they come from a tradition of a people who, when they put the voices of the people centered. You see, I come from a black people been terrorized for 400 years, traumatized 400 years. Our whole tradition is what? Lift every voice. We a blues people. You can't be a blues woman unless you find your voice. We a jazz people. You can't be a jazz man unless you find your voice. Exactly. Ooh, that voice sounds young. It sounds so good. Give it up for the young one. Oh, we love you in the back. We love you too, you precious one. The fundamental aim of the powers that be is to reduce the voices of the people to being echoes of the oligarchs. Yeah. And if you're just part of an echo chamber, then all you can do is fall into conformity and fall into complacency and fall into the cowardice that keeps the system going. When you find your voice, you have already decided to be courageous. You've decided to be a love warrior. And when you're a love warrior, you cut against structures of hatred, of dehumanization, of devaluation, any system and any act that loses sight of the precious humanity of other people, no matter where they are. That's why we're internationalists. Not captured by the waving of the flag. See what happened the other day in Charleston. When I look at Charleston, I see Denmark Vesey. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Mother Emanuel, he was the founder of that church. I look on the vanilla side of town of Charleston, who would I see? Angelina Grimke. You all know Angelina Grimke. Oh, yeah. One of the great freedom fighters whose father was a slave holder. Her sister Sarah, they had to leave South Carolina. She married a brother named Theodore Well, and they wrote a classic in 1838 called Slavery as It Is, that laid out slavery not as some form of system of subordination in the abstract. They described the labor as a species of torture. They described it as legalized terrorism. That's what it is. Don't let American corporate media tell you that some talk about terrorism began in 1911. No, it started in 1492 against indigenous people, 1619 the African people. Americans always had a history of legalized terrorism and torture. That's what Angelina was laying there. And Angelina comes from the ruling class. She committed class suicide. Because she fell in love with everyday people. And she fell in love with a hated people, black people. And that's one of the great contributions that we black people have made to the world. Be so intensely hated and yet teach the world so much about love. And it is true, my brother, about forgiveness. Premature forgiveness is a twisted effort at sympathy. It's a pathological form of empathy. But what it also does, and this is why I think we might disagree, we don't have time for it, not a seminar at the moment. But I start with John Coltrane's Love Supreme. That's my start. That's true for Jesus, free and love. Jesus loved free black man, so I got black church in me. But the Love Supreme simply says, when you are hated so, you say what Emmett Till's mother said in Chicago in August 1955 when her baby was in the coffin. What did you say? What you gonna say, Mama Till? She said, I don't have a minute to hate. I will pursue justice for the rest of my life. So you keep the love pole, but you got a fighting pole. The problem of Charleston was when somebody kills your grandmama and the next day you forgive them, it can't be real forgiveness. It can't be genuine. It can't be authentic. You got to work it through. You got to work it out. Love the person you put in the grave, mourn and grieve, but at the same time emerge as a fighter. Emerge swinging. But it's got to have the love at the center of the swinging. That's the key. That's the key. James Baldwin was a love warrior. He was a fighter. Toni Morrison's beloved, fighter. Donny Hathaway, fighter. Nina Simone, fighter. Stevie Wonder, love and the need of love. Oh Lord, we'd have a seminar just on that song. Love and need of love. Because what happens for people who hate themselves, who love themselves? They straighten up and tell the truth. And the condition of truth is always to allow something to speak. When you allow something to speak, the powers that be shake in their boots. We got to keep the wave going. July is going to be a massive march in Newark, New Jersey. August the 10th, we were just talking about this. Massive civil disobedience, 1 year anniversary. Ferguson. Yeah. Oh yeah. August 10th. Mr. Louis Farrakhan, 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. What's the title of that march? Justice or else. Right. You know how the ministry is. What you talking about? Well, you just work it out yourself. Justice or else. But then the Revolutionary March. New York City. Carl Dix and all the rest of them. We're going to have a distinct revolutionary love, revolutionary action, revolutionary analysis, revolutionary vision. You won't find the other marches. Now all of us are going to be part of the other marches because, as I said before, we're all in it together. We're all in it together. We're not looking for unanimity. You don't have to agree on everything. I don't agree with everything my dear brother Mr. Louis Farrakhan talks about. No, not at all. But when it comes to a hatred of white supremacy, count me in. Count me in. Hatred of male supremacy, I want my feminists to count me in. Hatred of homophobia, count me in. Hatred of imperialism, count me in. Talk about I disagree with another context, another level, but count me in on the love train that Curtis Mayfield sang about when he said, "Get ready." We just got to make sure we're ready in October. That's what we plan.
Yeah.